Lost the Community Shield to Manchester City, but there were plenty of encouraging signs nonetheless. Let's analyze.
Starting point for this analysis is of course the way Manchester United were set up. So of course both in this game and in the FA Cup final, Erik ten Hag has shown that he prefers to set up in a narrow 4-4-2 diamond or narrow 4-3-3 diamond with Bruno Fernandes playing as a false nine. That way we can constrict the space here for Kovacic, who is of course the linchpin in that Manchester City midfield. And that way of course, as you can see here, all of the Manchester United midfielders and forwards, they're close together, creating a sort of a rectangle. That way they can prevent Manchester City from playing the short passing game that they prefer. Obviously playing compact, well coordinated, well organized. Of course here creating a screen in front of Kovacic and the other Manchester City midfielders, making it really hard for the Manchester City centre backs to actually pass the balls through the lines into the midfield. Here of course you're going to see their frustration with Gvardiol obviously here, who is literally showing his frustration, literally telling his teammates, come on guys, move into space so I can find you with a pass. Very good organization, and as you can see here, this is kind of like a jellyfish kind of pattern from Manchester United, all of them moving together in unison. This in football we call this the accordion, right? So you want all of your players to stay compact and to move together, forward, back, right and left, and that's exactly what they're doing here, doing it together with organization. It forces Ederson to go long, and of course going long favors us. We're able to win the ball, and this happens multiple times throughout the game, and it allowed us to disrupt Manchester City's short passing game. But that wasn't the only thing, because I think that in this game the Manchester United players showed a little bit more edge than we've been used to. For example, here we lost the ball while we were attacking, and then Kobbie Mainoo brilliantly here against Holland wins the ball, and then obviously Bruno Fernandes here, another industrious player at Manchester United, coming back trying to win the ball, you know, in possession football. And I think that Pep Guardiola is one of the main major managers that started using this technique. It's called the 6-second rule. That means whenever you lose the ball, you have to try to win it back within 6 seconds. If you watch his Barcelona team and of course his Manchester City team, that's exactly what they do. So it's really good to see the Manchester United players doing it. And here it's very important for Bruno Fernandes to actually win the ball cleanly, because a lot of times what the Manchester City players want to do, which is very smart, is in these positions they just try to draw a foul. That way they can get a free kick here and just allow their team to push forward. It's just like rugby or American football. It's the same kind of concept. But here Bruno Fernandes of course wins the ball cleanly, and the plan doesn't work. Now same thing here, of course. Pep Guardiola in this game, he played with a little bit more wit compared to what he did in the FA Cup final. If you remember, in the FA Cup final, he started without natural wit, and of course in the first half we made them look ordinary, but then in the second half they looked more dynamic after they've included Jeremy Doku. But in this game he just started with him and started with Oscar Bob as well, so two out-and-out wingers. In my opinion, this is actually the greatest compliment that Pep Guardiola could give Erik ten Hag, because he's pretty much saying, I couldn't find a solution to the system. The only thing I can do is to bring in wingers that are good in one-on-one situations and try to maximize those opportunities. And to be fair, both Bob and Doku were actually pretty good in certain phases of play. Both of them had a couple of good chances, but overall I think that Diogo Dalot and Lisandro Martinez dealt with them pretty well. Here again, Diogo Dalot with a great tackle on Doku. Here notice how Bruno Fernandes is close to him. Usually the Manchester United players, they tackle with two players on one. This is a very important pattern that we're gonna see in a minute. So anyway, we win the ball. The ball comes toward Casemiro. As you can see here, he's already looking ahead. He's already thinking about what would be the next step. This is the mark of a world-class player. Don't wait until you receive the ball before you think what you're going to do with it. He gets the ball and then goes on forward. Here, of course, we're in a 3v3 kind of situation. The ball comes to Amad Diallo. He's really impressive. I really like Amad Diallo and the way he plays. Here, Bruno Fernandes again, creating that space, dragging the defense with him, which allows Amad Diallo to have some space. Here, I thought that Casemiro would just shoot, you know, inside of the inside of the foot into this far post over here. That could have been a goal, but no, he tries to be cute with it towards Amad Diallo. Beautiful movement, and here, come on, I thought he was gonna open up his body and just slide it into this corner over here. No, he played it to Mount, and then Mount was not anticipating it. This could have been the goal of the season before the season even started. This is sexiness personified, and I'm just so mad that it didn't go in, okay? Now, of course, this is how we scored the goal. So obviously, again, as you can see, Manchester United players pressing high. And then here, Collier, and again, as I've shown you earlier, you know that pattern. Manchester United players, just as I showed you with Dalot and Bruno Fernandes, tackling in pairs. Here, the same thing with Collier and Pellistri. Again, they win the ball cleanly, you know, the ability to tackle well, that's very good. Pellistri here is not satisfied with just winning the ball. He's driving forward. The ball comes in towards Bruno Fernandes, and here, very dangerous situation, 4v2. Bruno Fernandes towards Garnacho, and then here's Scott McTominay. This is very important. Again, takes Gvardiol away with him, which opens up that space for Garnacho, and that's a beautiful, beautiful goal. Now, don't worry, I still have more footage for you. But before I talk about what's coming next, I have to talk to you a little bit about tactics, okay? So teams like Manchester City under Pep Guardiola, teams that want to dominate possession, they tend to play a high pressing game. But what you have to understand about the pressing game is that it's a game of trade-offs, okay? So basically, you're stuck between your line of engagement and your defensive line. Basically, these two decisions are intertwined. If you want to press high, that means your line of engagement is high. That's the point from which your forwards start applying aggressive pressure on the opponent. But as you do that, of course, you drag your defensive line upwards. And what happens then is that it leaves this dangerous area behind your defenders. And a lot of teams, including Manchester City, the way they try to balance this out is by having fast center backs. That's why they play Kyle Walker actually closer to the center of the pitch than as a traditional right back, and by having, of course, a sweeper keeper, which Ederson is. That means you make this area a little bit smaller and make it harder for the opposition to exploit. However, when you play against a team like Manchester United with players like Bruno Fernandes, Mason Mount, Casemiro, even players like Christian Eriksen, who can play these long balls into this space, and then of course fast, dangerous players like Rashford,